You want an easy one command install? You're gonna have a bad time. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Morpheus podcast, coming live to you here on Thursday, 16th of April, 2026. I'm your host Kyrin, and I'm going to be going over today some of my learnings from trying to install an agent over these last 2 weeks, and in particular this last week. So I'm going to be going over some addressing that issue right at the start of if you think you're going to have a one-click easy install command. It's definitely much harder than that. A couple of learnings based on what type of hardware that you're running, as well as the perhaps some suggestions of your competence level with regards to developer skills and understanding IT and things like this, and some helpful resources which I would also recommend trying out and going into. So I suppose step number one is, if you're installing an agent, what type of hardware do you have, if you have hardware at all? So, and I've put this into 3 modes based on a little bit of research and also what I've been doing, which is the easy, middling, and God mode. Now, the easy mode seems to be, by consensus, if you get a Mac Mini and you get that up and running, it costs $20 a year of electricity. I think those are around 600 US, something like that. And that is where you will be able to have like a lot of ecosystem support, and perhaps even to do this one click or one command easy install. I still kind of doubt it, to be honest, but that does seem to be the one where if you've never used a command line before, if you don't know what a command line is, that is where I would start off if you are going to run an agent, or at least install an agent. I have barely just installed one, so let me be clear on this, that I am no guru on this. I'm a guru on failing really hard at doing these one-click easy installs. The middling one is, I would say, which is what I've been doing, which is using a Windows laptop, or a laptop with Windows running on it, and then using a Windows subsystem for Linux, so WSL or WSL2, to be able to still have, your familiar Windows environment, but also using this kind of base to be able to install your agent on. This does require you to prep a couple of things on your laptop first. It does require you to do a little bit of digging in and around to find stuff, and that's okay, but it's not like exceedingly outside of the realm of possibilities. I'd say it's taken me about 10 hours worth of work to get to the point where I'm actually able to start talking to an agent. And this was for a variety of reasons from my fault. I'd say probably like 60% was my fault, and then 40% was things outside of my control. Then there is the God mode, which is just doing Linux full, doing the installing Linux proper on your machine. And honestly, if you're at that point, you probably don't need to be listening to me here. Like, you are probably well and truly far and beyond. So if you are someone like me who is perhaps encountering some issues and thinking like, oh, a lot of people seem to be running Linux and that just is so much easier because there'd be so much more help, I don't think that's the case. I think if you go on the full Linux route, like, you're going to be having problems with Linux itself and then problems with installing an agent. So if you are a relative novice, a newbie, I would 100% suggest do either the get in the Mac Mini sort of route or the Windows subsystem for Linux. You can also do this without hardware. So this is using a VPS, virtual private server, somewhere like DigitalOcean, or where you're paying, I don't know, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever, for access to, a couple of gigs worth of memory and all the stuff. I've only used that once before for hosting a podcast, and I remember it being a little bit tedious and painful, probably just about as much pain as I'm experiencing now. So I'd put it into the kind of middling area as well. So technical competency, you're probably looking at about the same where I'm at, which is the Windows subsystem for Linux, getting a virtual private server and running it without any hardware. I'd say those two are about equal, if probably a little bit more difficult for the VPS. So second learning, I guess, is you want to be getting to the point where you can talk to your LLM or the LLM behind your agent as fast as possible. Like, that is the key unlock, because once you've done that, it can start to diagnose itself and work out and figure things which you can't do. Now, you might be thinking like, oh, Kyrin, the method you were doing before of taking screenshots, and if you've watched any of the live streams, essentially, I would get to a point where I'm having an issue with the install. So I'll even bring it up on my laptop here. So if you're watching, you'll actually be able to see this. And I would be having these issues where the install would just like have all of these crazy errors. And I'm trying to figure out like, what the hell, what does like channel exited, call to delete webhook failed, 404 not found. What does that mean? What does trim errors mean? What does npm install mean? Like, and it's not in the right place. All of that sort of stuff. Those are the sorts of things where, you could be thinking like, oh, I'll just take a screenshot, ask an LLM that I already have access to, like the chat-based ones, and it can diagnose it and help me out. That is not particularly correct. It will be able to help you out with a couple of little suggestions, but it doesn't have the context of the agent, of the install package, I guess. It doesn't have the context of exactly what you're doing. You can say, I'm trying to download OpenClaw or install OpenClaw on WSL. What does this error mean? And I found that it was just giving me things like, oh, we need to reinstall this package in this place. We need to do X, we need to do Y. And it didn't address the underlying issue, which was that I hadn't properly set it up. So this is getting into learning number three. From the above, do your research to find an install guide. I would 100% recommend that. And then try and follow that guide to the absolute T. I found a really good one eventually for what I was doing, which is how to install OpenClaw on Windows, WSL2. This is by a relatively new channel by the looks of it. AI Invasion, 9 subscribers, 468 views, was published 13 days ago. This was extremely useful because he was really getting into all of the things that I was missing. I was missing that you needed to go, for example, Windows R, optional features, hitting that, and then going down to the bottom here and making sure that you had Windows Subsystem for Linux, Windows Hypervisor Platform, Virtual Machine Platform, and having those enabled. I did not know any of that. So when I was first just trying to do it and doing this one-click easy install, I was just encountering issue after issue. So finding a YouTube channel or a guide like this, I think is invaluable because he'll just give you all the exact steps you need to do. And also, if you find a good one, like explain the reasoning why you're doing these steps. So 100% recommended to doing that. And I guess mixed in with this learning is that getting your install done correctly is perhaps the most important thing. It's kind of like, I don't know, if I had to just come up with an analogy on the spot, if you want to drive a car somewhere, like you really need to A, have the hardware, the car, B, have a bit of knowledge of how to drive already and what the actual things in the car do, and then just physically like be set up. You get into the car, you turn the engine on, you put your safety belt on, and then you can go everywhere. So if you like, you drive down the street, you turn right and you're meant to turn left, it's like, okay, that's like an annoying error, but I can just do a U-turn, or I can, stop, reverse back, and then drive to the left. You don't have to go all the way back to your house, get out of the car, like, turn the car off, get out, take off your safety belt, and then get back in, turn it on, and do this. So I would say getting the install gets you to that point. The install done correctly gets you to the point where, at the very least, you're starting to drive, or you've got this like solid starting point, so you don't need to do all of the bullshit again to really try and fix all of these issues. perhaps I will take this back in a month's time or something, where I've got an agent running and I go like, oh, I should have set this up completely different from the beginning. Perhaps that would happen. I have heard a couple of people say that. But I think certainly at this beginning stage, just getting the install done perfectly is worth the extra effort, and is hence why I have personally restarted this computer. I don't know how many times, it's not triple digits yet, but it's certainly like a decent amount of double digits. And is hence why I'm actually recording over here on another laptop, so that I can continually restart, so I don't have to do that. Learning number 4 is to save yourself time. I would prep a couple of things beforehand, because when you're doing this install process, it can feel like really slow and tedious, and you're just, you're trying to work on this one problem of the install, and these other problems keep jumping up. Oh shit, I don't have an API key. Oh shit, I don't have like a phone or a spare device where I can have WhatsApp to use and connect. And I do, but then shit, I need like a new number for that, so I need to get a new SIM and pay for like a prepaid plan for a week or something, so that I can get a text message from Google so I can connect a new account. These are all sorts of issues that I've encountered. So I would definitely say you would need an API key set up, or just handy and ready. Personally, I recommend doing the Venice or the Morpheus route, which is where you stake the tokens to get inference, and that you own your own inference. But if you're more on the other side of things and just want perhaps something that's a little bit easier, or you're not inclined into crypto or whatever, then getting the API keys set up from OpenAI, from your subscription to Claude, from your subscription to whatever, is worth the go. Or if you're like balls deep in this stuff and running a model locally, then at least having that, you experience running the model locally before you're trying to install an agent. I would not do it the opposite way around. So that is one suggestion there. And then my final one is that I just don't think this easy one command install is true. Even when I followed all of the above and had, like 10 hours of trying, extra knowledge, I got to the point where I was able to start talking to my agent and asking it to do some things. I was getting it to like try to connect to WhatsApp, which we'd done previously, and it was, having troubles, but we're getting somewhere. At least I could talk to it. The real problem I found was this easy one stall in command. It doesn't take into account that you're going to have some issues, and that it itself is going to have some issues. So for example, I mentioned 60%, let's probably even be more generous. 80% of the problems were me. I didn't do this basic research of, I should have the API key ready. I should follow a guide, which will give me step by step, and I had no idea that I needed to go and do these optional features and, click them, and how to install this Ubuntu system correctly of the Windows subsystem for Linux. But that 20%, as I was going through the install process, I started hitting this error, this trim error. I'm like, what the hell is this? Asking my AI, Venice, hey, what's going on here? And it starts giving me all of these weird ass wild suggestions. Going over onto the OpenClaw subreddit and looking within there, I found, there's a problem with the install process. So even though I had this guide from, 13 days ago that I said, it was still out of date, in the sense that a new error had popped up. And this was something that was occurring on Windows. It was occurring on Windows subsystem for Linux. It was occurring on Linux. It was occurring on VPSs, and it was occurring on Macs. So even if you have the easiest one-click install command on the Mac side of things, you're still going to have a bad time. It's still not going to be easy. So these things evolve rapidly, and even though all of your friends might be raving about, OpenClaw this, agents that, so easy, man, just get it set up. the prepare to dedicate a bit of time to it. So I've gotten to, like I said, probably about 10 hours, and I'm going to do a fresh, complete reinstall, so that I do have this set up exactly as I want, because like I said, I did get to the point where I could start talking to it. But even then, I'm still like, I think the install process works 92%. 92% is correct, but I'd really like to get my confidence level to that 99, 100% before I really dedicate the time to giving it, transcripts from all of my podcasts, before getting it all the connections and, installing all the things on this new laptop, so that, because I would really hate to do all of that, spend another 10, 20, 30, 100 hours doing all of that, only to realize like, shit, I stuffed something up right at the beginning with this install process. These files are in the wrong place. Moving them over would be extremely difficult. And, even though you might hear your friends saying things like this, we're still very much in the innovator, perhaps early adopter section of the graph. If you've seen that graph of adoption of technology, and the chances are it's going to be a little bit of a rough time. Like it's still not going to be easy. So I'm just bringing this graph up on the screen now, so we can have a look at this. Open image in new tab. Jump over to here. So this image here, we are still very much in like the innovators, the 2.5% range, and you're going to encounter a lot of issues and problems. But that being said, with all of that being said, today, getting through that breakthrough of actually like connecting it so that I was able to start talking to it, it did, and doing like one little test before my credits ran out, man, you can see this is going to change a lot of things and make a lot of people a lot more productive. And it's certainly worthwhile. Like, now that I've done it and gotten like just a little bit of a taste for it, I'm like, yeah, this is going to change a lot of things. So, which is what I was expecting coming in, but it's good to verify this stuff for yourself. So, this has been Kyrin on the Mere Morpheus podcast. I still intend to do somewhat regular episodes. I think my plan going forward is I will still obviously be downloading the Twitter spaces of the town halls and uploading them as regular episodes when they're released, typically on a Saturday morning, my time, because they're on a Friday or something, around that time, Friday, Saturday. And I will probably do summary recaps like this. I think every Thursday is probably a good kind of like schedule. I'll work on this Monday to Thursday, give you some learnings from the week, give you some ideas of what to try out. I didn't mention it, but I tried out the Hermes agent as well. Similar sort of thing. Like, it's not just OpenClaw that is, you're going to struggle with this stuff. With Hermes, I could download it. I got some stuff running, and then the Venice API key, no bueno. It did not like whatever I was giving it. We didn't have that dancing going on. So there's anyone who's claiming like, oh, this one's better, this one's easier. They're all difficult in their own way. So just get used to that. So look forward to that. I am doing these live streams. They're probably going to be roughly 9 a.m. to about midday-ish on Australian Eastern Standard Time, Monday to Thursdays. So feel free to join in, as Juan was doing here and helping me out with some of it, or watching my little failures here and there. But it's a lot of fun, and that being said, I'd give it a shot if you've got some hours free and you're willing to. Essentially, the analogy I've heard from multiple people now is people who are kind of interested in crypto in, let's just say, like the pre-2016. These people are interested in this stuff, and they are just as excited about the possibility for change and how it's going to change the world. So is this going to be in a monetary sense? Yeah, absolutely, in some sort of sense, but it won't be as like simple as buying a coin or buying Ethereum when it first comes out. It's more going to be probably along the lines of like, oh shit, I can make money by having an agent of myself that does things, or things like this. So probably next week I'll talk about some of the projects that I want to try and work on, and ideas that I have for where I think agents will be really useful and why I haven't attempted to do them in the past. But we're going to leave it there for today. So thank you for joining in. I do hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Ciao for now. Kyrin out.